meeting is being recorded.
All right, Scott, can you hear me?
I can. It's
Okay,
not
excellent.
great noise, but I can hear you.
All right. Then we will call to order the meeting of the Licensing Committee of the Minnesota Board of Private Detectives and Protective Agent Services. The record should reflect that it is approximately 10 a.m. on December 31st, 2024. We're going to proceed with our agenda as distributed and published. The record will reflect we have staff present along with some observers and guests physically in the room. We have other people joining us online. Both committee members are here. One of them is appearing remotely as a result under the rules and under the statutes, particularly open meeting law. We'll have to roll call all votes. The record should also reflect we have joining us remotely, I believe, our counsel. So with that, we'll get right into the content of the agenda. Item 1 is the review of the November 2024 Licensing Committee meeting minutes. I have reviewed the same, and I am looking for a motion to approve, correct, or amend.
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
All right, I second. Discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Moving to item 2 on our agenda, officer changes. The first of those is relative to license holder PDC 1029, seeking a change in qualified representative Minnesota manager. Agency reports no issues or concerns with the proposed change. Is there a motion to approve?
Scott, I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Then call the agenda. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. That motion carries. We have PAC 2339, again proposing or seeking a change of qualified representative Minnesota manager. Once again, agency has, our staff has vetted the proposed change, has no concerns or issues. Looking for a motion to approve.
Scott, I'd make that motion.
Second, discussion. Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye, so that motion carries. Third, under item 2 is PDC 1048, also seeking a change to the Minnesota manager. Once again, no issues from a staff level. Is there a motion to approve?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. That motion also carries. Next on PDC 1048, also a change in qualified representative. Staff, once again, tells us there are no issues involved. And is there a motion to approve?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. We also have PAC 1091, again, a qualified representative change. Agency indicates there are no issues. It does also indicate that this is to the extent we accelerate proceedings because of the veteran status. So thank you for that. And looking for a motion to approve.
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. We also, for the record, have informational only changes. These do not require board action because they are not within the licensing jurisdiction or authority requiring approval, but just for the minutes in the record, there are change in officers for the following entities: PDC 1057, a change in CFO. PDC 1050, a change in CEO, CFO, and a change for PAC 2084, a change in CFO. All right, that moves to item 3 on our agenda, tabled officer changes. Item 4, renewal consent agenda. We have the first 3 of these renewals, or first 3 entities, 4 licenses, we're able to submit without any issues. Everyone else has gotten ready and up to speed. I will read into the record those entities, and then we can approve those as a consent agenda item in mass. They are PDI 786, dual licensee PDC 1023 and PAI 1151, PDC 2027, PDC 2151, PAC 1137, dual licensee PAC 1145 and PDC 1146, and PAC 2023. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
I second, and then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that motion and those licenses are renewed. License renewals, item 5. These were issues that required a little additional work or consideration. So those we will handle individually. The first of those is a dual license, PDC 2158, PAC 2159. Staff indicates initially there were some affidavit training issues relative to continuing education, armed and unarmed, for 3 employees in 2023. There has been proof or submission that all training in 2024 has been completed. We don't have a disciplinary history. Staff reports ready for review. We do have a written explanation in the minutes. There was also an indication that a license holder would be available for a conversation if we had any follow-up questions. Do we have a license holder representative present?
We do have someone online.
All right, and who is that, please?
Charles Oden.
All right, welcome to our committee meeting. We did receive your explanation in writing. Let me ask, everything else, staff is ready, and what I couldn't tell from the submission is the 2024 training, did that cover both? In other words, are we dealing with a stacked situation training, or did the 2023 get missed?
So 2023 was missed, and then they have made up for it without being able to go back in time. They've shown that they've done enough training to cover it now.
So what we used to call stacked, that they did 12 hours, but in the second year?
Right, yeah, so they missed it and then shown proof
That's what
of
I
all.
wasn't clear to me.
Yep.
Because to me, it's a little different situation. If they just said, oh, well, we missed 6 hours, never mind. But if they've made it up, at least that's, especially during COVID, we had a lot of stacking, as we recall, which we tended to have a little different approach to one versus the other. So that's helpful. So what have you done? If you could explain a little bit more, perhaps, how going forward, we won't be back here having this discussion in 2 years, please?
Yes, absolutely. And I do apologize. This training just got away from me. I have no viable excuse for it, and I can assure you it won't happen again. We have put a training schedule in place so that going forward, we have a small staff, but me and my staff will get things done on time. We already have it scheduled out right currently for the next 2 years. I assure you it won't happen again. This is a very embarrassing.
Scott, any questions?
No, I appreciate the honesty. Rick, if you're ready, I'd like to make a motion for approval with the letter.
Motion has been made to renew the license with the letter of education, persuasion, and reconciliation. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that motion is approved. The licenses stand renewed as submitted. There will be an education letter that will go to the license holder and in the file. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and I really apologize for any inconvenience I might have caused, and I hope you all have a great New Year.
I'm just glad that you were able to, like I said, this would have been a little bit different outcome if you hadn't made up the deficiency. So I'm glad that you were able to get on top of that before we had to deal with it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, PDC 1041, the staff indicates that the renewal is ready for review, but multiple issues were found, specifically some issues relative to the affidavit of training as outlined. We do have an explanation from the license holder that has been submitted and is included in the minutes. I understand that and frankly, the explanation is a little troubling, so I understand that we have a representative from licensee present and prepared to speak with us today. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
And so if that person can come forward, either physically here or if they're online, unmute and note your appearance, please.
Gary, it looks like you are still muted on your end, so we cannot hear you.
Okay, I think I've got it.
Now we hear you.
All right, are
Okay,
you able to hear us?
yes, sir.
All right, if you could identify yourself for the record and then your position with license PDC 1041.
Gary Kale. I am the owner of Kale and Associates and the investigators also.
All right. Couple of issues, multiple issues.
Yes, sir.
The issue of how many employees you have. We have some indication you have one employee with contractors that you assign work to. We have other indications you have multiple employees, maybe 4 employees, who have not been covered by workers' compensation, have some training issues and have some background issues. So let's start with that question. How many employees, W-2 employees, do you have?
I have no.
All right, so, which is my understanding, and that's why you don't carry workers' compensation for any of them, is that correct?
Correct. And let me tell you, this has been renewed and on my list for 12 years and approved.
Okay. Then you've told us for 12 years, told this board that you have independent contractors?
Yes, I have. You can see it on my my application's the same every year, except for the number
What
of
have you done?
employees. Oh,
What have you
yes.
done to vet those people to make sure that they're properly licensed themselves?
They aren't properly.
Then so
Can I answer, please?
what have you been having them do?
What I did is I had them, if you look at statute 7506, the bottom says you cannot have a contract employee unless the card license holder and unlicensed party fulfill 326.336. That's the background, the fingerprints, the education. All of my contract employees have done that. And when I called
Okay.
your office back in
Wait,
2000,
slow down a moment. You referenced a statute number 7506.
yep,
That's not a complete statute number. So what statute number are you talking about?
7506.0150.
That's still not a statute number. You're talking rule?
Well, yeah, I guess it's a rule. Yeah.
All right. Now, you keep saying your contract employees. Well, they're one or the other. They're either employees or they're contractors.
They're
If they're contractors, excuse me, what'd you say?
They're contract employees. They have been for
There's
the.
no such thing as a contract employee. You're either an employee or you're a contractor. That's like saying a carnivorous herbivore.
Let's
You're one or
say,
the other.
okay, they're contractors.
All right, then what did you do to make sure that they are properly licensed?
They aren't properly licensed because of
So
statute.
then,
Can I answer? I was told by your office that I could have contract employees.
and who told you that and when?
I don't have the name. That was 14 years ago.
Okay, so do you know the position of the person 14 years ago that told you that?
No, I don't, sir.
And you can have contract employees. You can, as you call them, you can have contractors as long as those contractors are licensed as private investigators. If Rinks wants to hire you to do investigations or security work, they can do that as long as they've properly vetted you as being licensed. So I don't understand legally how it is that you haven't been aiding and abetting the practice of unlicensed work. Explain that to me.
Because I asked your office if I could have contract employees. I was told yes, and then I go to the rule, and the rule says if they fulfill all of the statute training requirements and background, they can do the work. It's confusing to me now that I read it.
But you have no record, no history of who told you that?
No, sir. I didn't know I needed one 14 years ago. But if this is the ruling that I can't have contract employees, then I won't have contract employees.
No one's telling you you can't have contract. Again, you keep using a term that doesn't legally exist. They're one or the other. They're contractors or they're employees.
Okay, if I can't have contractors, I don't have them anymore. Okay, I'm gonna end it then. I didn't know this. This wasn't told to me. It went for 14 years this way. I don't know how it could have got passed up by the reviewer. I've had questions on the training of these people through the years. I've had questions on a couple of things through the years, and they've never said that I've always put that I have no employees on the renewal. So I'm confused as to why all of a sudden this came about.
Well, what I'm looking at is a document, and I haven't seen the original submissions, but the document I'm looking at says you reported that you have 4 employees on your renewal.
Right.
But you're telling us,
well,
I have 4 employees, but they're not employees, so I don't have to carry a workers' compensation on them as required by law. That's not what Chapter 176 of the Workers' Compensation Law says either. So have you been doing any withholding, Social Security? Have you been treating them as employees for any of those purposes?
No, they're 1099 employees. Maybe we'll use it that way. They're 1099 people.
Staff, everything else is in order other than this issue, is that correct, in terms of the rest of the renewal documents? I know we also have an issue with background investigations.
Yes, so we do have the background issue, and then Gary has an inactive post license, and it doesn't show that on the post website, that he has done any training since 2022. His other employees are fine with their training, but it looks like this past renewal cycle, he has not completed any training.
All right, so the one employee is the license holder?
For that, yes.
So, what about that? The lack that you haven't had any training since 2022 that you've submitted?
I have had training. I was told, and it went this way the whole 14 years, is my post license is my training.
But your post license is inactive.
My post, you've got the names screwed up. Active means I'm a working police officer. Inactive means I'm not working for an agency. It's always been inactive since I've been with you because I retired.
But if you have an inactive post license, then if it's going to truly be inactive, subject to reactivation, you have to be meeting continuing education requirements.
I am meeting the
So an inactive post license with continuing education would be sufficient. Inactive post license without continuing education, you couldn't renew your post license either.
Yes, my post license is renewed. It's up in 2025, I believe. And I did the training to keep that license, to get that license. I may let it lapse this year. Then I will take your training.
When you say to get, have you been taking the post-approved training to keep your license on inactive status rather than lapse status at post?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It sounds like you haven't submitted that information to staff. Is
I
that correct, staff?
On the post website, it shows the last training that he completed was in 2022, which would not be in this renewal period. So that's where we're.
No, I understand that, but the post board website deals with actively licensed officers. It is possible that inactive licensed officers would have no one to submit that to the post board. So what Gary is telling us here is he has been doing the training. The fact that the post board doesn't have a record of it would not in and of itself mean that he doesn't. Okay, so where have you been getting that training through, Gary? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, I went violence against women. I think that was the latest one. I also completed your training 3 days ago. I went and took the 6-hour course just to, my attorney told me to do something. So,
Your training, what do you mean by that?
well, the training told me to do, the attorney told me to take one of your qualified training courses, so I did.
Okay.
I haven't got the certificate yet, but I will.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you the help you out and give you a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here.
Yep,
If you've got taken post-approved training,
correct.
it wouldn't surprise me that the post board wouldn't necessarily have that record, because that typically has been submitted to the training sponsor or through the employer. Like if you were working for a sheriff's officer at PD, you're not. So I've had inactive licensed officers come and attend my post classes, and they get their certificate, their proof. That's their record. It sounds like you, as part of this renewal process, you didn't submit that, the documents about your training, or we seem to have. Did you submit it to our staff?
Well, no, what happens is the post license now for this next cycle, that's when I submit the previous training to the post board.
I get that.
Okay,
But-
so it hasn't been submitted yet because I
Right,
don't
but
have to renew yet.
Right, Gary, but I understand that. But that doesn't mean you didn't do it. It just means that the post board doesn't have a record of it.
Right, right.
And, right, so you could solve that area of concern by simply submitting your certificate of completion, for example. If this is a 12-hour class on violence against women training, if you submitted that to our staff here, that would meet your training obligations because it's a post-approved course. You see where I'm going with that?
Yep, I know where you're going with it.
Right. So what's our date here in terms of the license currently is on a contingent status, right?
Correct.
So one option we could simply grant contingent status this month, let you submit the post-approved course proof, et cetera, to our staff, gives us a chance to address that. Also gives us a chance to look back in history about this, see what we can find in terms of any of our records. So that's an option that I'm entertaining in my own mind. But Scott, I've been monopolizing the conversation. Your thoughts or concerns?
I think you said most of the comments best, Rick. I'd be in favor of placing this into contingency status just to give everybody a little bit of breath, making sure that the applicant is able to get the proper materials that he needs, and then for our staff to do some research as well.
The other issue that we haven't, that was noted in the minutes is the date of hire and the background submissions on one employee. The notes, Gary, say that there was a reported hire date of November 22nd, 2023. The check wasn't completed until the 21st of March, 2024. When we confirmed, went back to staff, they advised that it was not submitted until March 18th of 2024. So their turnaround time was 3 days from the time they actually got it. What happened between November 22nd, 2023 and March 18th, 2024? Do you know anything about that, Gary?
Yes, whose turnaround date was 3 days?
Whose turnaround what?
Who turned it around in 3 days?
The BCA, according to the notes that are in our minutes.
Well, that's not what I got. I delivered it a lot sooner than that. Then what I did is I gave this employee a ID, and we, as I understood it in the statute, there is a probationary person statute until we get the background in. And that's what we were doing, was we were training her because she's brand new. I couldn't let her go out there by herself. So we trained her during that period.
When you delivered it, did you get a receipt? Did you physically deliver it by hand, or how did it get to BCA from you?
I mailed it.
Do you have proof of mailing? Like a cover letter or something like that?
I could find that. I think I got a receipt for the mailing.
All right, that would be helpful to have as well.
Okay.
So we can address this
But this person.
discrepancy in what you're remembering and what you're telling us and what the BCA record shows. So I think that's just one more reason for continued status at this point, so that issue can be addressed as well if you would. Scott, any other thoughts about that or a motion?
No other thoughts, Rick. I'm ready to make a motion for to put the license in contingent status.
Motion has been made to put license in contingent status to allow the license holder and staff to resolve the issues or address the issues that we've talked about. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So Gary, that means you're still good, you're operational, you're able to work, et cetera, but if we can get some of these issues cleared up, then we can be back here for our next meeting next month and hopefully get a resolution of these things.
Okay. So what you want me to look at is my training. And you want to see if I can find the receipt.
We need to address the apparent gap in between hire date and when the background check was done, yes. So whatever you can do to shed light on that, and then submitting to staff the fact, even though it's not on the post board website, the fact you have completed post-approved training. Get those documents, and that would address your training.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, thank you.
And then if you have contract employers, if you have written agreements with them, these, as you call them, contract employees, but these subcontractors or contractors, if you have contract documents that address the terms and conditions of their employment, that would also be helpful to help us sort out, are they contractors, are they employees, and that could make a difference on where we go with this as well. So if you can submit those items, that would be very helpful.
Okay, I don't have any contract with any of them.
That whatever documentation you have that reflects contractor versus employee, that would be helpful to see.
Well, I don't know that I have anything in the license for you.
Well, we don't know what you have, obviously, because we're not sitting in your office, so we'll just have to give you the give you the ideas of what we're looking for, and you're an experienced, smart guy, you'll see what you have, and if you don't have it, you'll tell us you don't have it.
Okay,
So thank you.
thank you, sir.
All right, then that moves us on to PDC 2085, where we have documents were received late. Was an ownership change or some other things going on. Staff indicates that it is not ready for review. Has that changed as of the date of publication of our minutes?
That has not changed.
All right, then contingent status for PDC 2085 would be in order. Is there such a motion?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
Second, discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
Hodgson votes aye. PAC 2150, again, late receipt from just a few days ago, a week ago, not ready for review. I assume that's still the case?
That is still the case.
Is there a motion for contingent status?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second, discussion? Call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. We have dual license holder, PDC 2148 and PAC 2149. As of 12/26/2024, materials had not been received. Is that still the case?
That is still the case.
All right, contingent status motion would be in order. Scott?
I would make that motion, Rick.
And I second. Discussion? Then we'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye, so that motion carries. Likewise, PAC 2343, as of December 26th, materials had not been received. Is that still the case?
That is still the case.
Looking for a contingent status motion there as well.
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
I second. Discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Dual license holder PAI 2344 and PDI 2345. As of the 26th of December, nothing had been received. Is that still the case?
That is still the case.
All right, a motion for contingent status would be in order. Scott?
Rick, I would make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that motion carries. All right, item 6 on our agenda, contingent licenses. These are licenses that are currently in contingent status, are now potentially ready to be acted upon. The first of those was, or is, PAC 2084. Had been in contingent status as of last month. Staff reports any issues left to be resolved and addressed are concluded. It is now ready for review. What caused our delay last time? Do you remember, Abby?
We were waiting for an informed consent form to be submitted with a physical signature.
Okay, got it. Is there a motion to remove from contingent status and renew? Scott?
Rick, it's Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Dual license holder PAC 1136 and PDC 1040. Indication is this also was something we put in contingent status last month. Issues have been resolved. Remember what those are offhand, Abby?
We were missing an insurance certificate.
All right, so easy enough. Is there a motion to renew?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion. I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Also, PAC 2342. First renewal. It's currently in contingent status as well. It is now ready for consideration. Staff does report a training type issue. We have an explanation included in our minutes. The explanation we have is essentially Ms. calculation of timing in terms of when the training should have been done, so it was done about 5-6 weeks late. Everything else is in order, is that correct?
Yes, and we have received the certificates of that training, and we do have a representative here if you had any further questions.
So I was going to ask, who do we have here today? If you can come forward, please.
You do Tennyson?
And then if you want to just press the button so that it's green, that'll mean that it's on.
Thank you, and welcome. If you could identify your name and your position with PAC 2342, just for our records, please.
Richard Lee, co-owner / CEO.
All right. We have your explanation. As I understand it, all of the training is up to speed now. This is your first renewal, so we understand that. But tell me again how you're going to make sure we don't having this conversation 2 years from now.
Well, I put a note in my calendar for one thing, and two, I misread it. I misinterpreted. Totally my fault. No excuse. My timing was off.
But the training has all been done, just it was 5
Oh,
or 6.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, great. I appreciate your candor, also that you came and visit us live today on the 31st of December, where other people might be wanting to start the party early. So I don't have any other questions. Scott, any questions do you have?
Rick, I have no questions and ready to make a motion for approval.
Please do. Motion has been made to approve renewal. Do you want a letter of education or just a renewal?
I didn't, just a renewal.
All right. Now I can go along with that. I'll second that. Any other discussion? And I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So thank you. And again, hopefully we won't see you again for 2 years.
Definitely not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also move on now to PAC 2339, ready for review. We did get a contingent status, I think, would end with this meeting. It is now ready for review. We got the renewal application late. Again, a first renewal. Some of the issues are officer changes. And as I read the explanation, it seemed like a lot of the confusion, issues, whatever, had to do with a lot of that officer change. Do we have anyone present for the PAC 2339?
Yes, we do have the new Minnesota manager and QR online.
All right. You could unmute and.
Hi, I'm Latoya Carter. I am the licensing specialist for Sunstate Security, and I will speak on behalf of us.
Thank you. And could you spell your name for our records, please?
Yes, Latoya, LATOYA, Carter, CARTER.
All right. So sounds like this is your first renewal venture in the state of Minnesota, and you had to sort some things out with some of the training issues. What going forward should we expect to hear that you've done to make sure we aren't going to have a repetition?
Moving forward, we are aware of all the training requirements as of now. Thank Abigail so much for her assistance doing everything. And we are putting it on our calendars. We are making sure that our new officers, when we get any in Minnesota, going through their background immediately with you all, and also making sure that their training is up to date, making sure that they're licensed as well. And we also put in place to make sure that our QA, which is going to be Mr. Sisson that's on the call as well, is also aware of any updates and changes in rules and regulations, and just making sure that we're constantly up to date and making sure all trainings are on our calendars together. So that way we're not missing anything or anything is falling through the cracks.
You indicated Jeff is on the line, available to talk to us as well.
Yes,
sir.
Jeff?
Yes, sir. Jeffrey Sisson.
Sisson
Yes,
for
sir.
spelling.
Yes, sir.
So you're on board now as the qualified rep Minnesota manager, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
All right, and when did you come on board?
I have just taken over that region. I want to say 3 months ago.
All right, so, you're aware then of these training responsibilities, I'm assuming and hoping?
Absolutely, sir.
All right. Scott, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate both people showing up for the meeting today and the communication back and forth with us. I'm ready for a motion if you are, Rick.
I'm ready.
I'd like to make a motion for approval with a letter.
All right, motion has been made to approve a renewal, which I second, with a letter of education. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye, so that motion carries, and we are, the license holder is renewed. So thank you both again for showing up, visiting with us today.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
and
Thank you for having
appreciate
us.
your patience. Thank you.
That completes item 6 on our agenda. Item 7 of tabled renewals, of which we have none. Lapsed licenses, we have item 8 on the agenda. Lapsing happens as a matter of law. It doesn't require any board action. As of the 26th of December, PAC 2337 had not reappeared. Is that still the case?
That's still the case.
All right, again, that automatically happens. PDC 2083, same situation. Any appearance from that licensee?
Nothing.
All right. As to PAC 2081, any appearance from that licensee?
No.
All right, it also will go into lapse status. And we have PDI 2018. Currently, we did receive a renewal on the 26th of November 2024. We have a status change, and apparently this is now ready for review. Can you give us a little bit of history as to how we ended up in this status?
Yes, so this license holder mainly is in Wisconsin. He was debating what he wanted to do with his Minnesota license when it came up for renewal, and then he ultimately decided to go through the status change. So he submitted that paperwork along with his license renewal, which is why it was late, and then the status change is a little bit further down on this page in our agenda. So he was kind of doing it all at once, but he has not been working in Minnesota, so being currently lapsed, he wanted to just make sure that he got everything in at the same time.
And we are going to be addressing the change in legal status later in our agenda, as I recall. Is that?
Yes, it is item 11 on that same page.
That's what, all right. Yep, there it is. All right. So it is, Scott, any thoughts?
I have none. Ready for a motion.
Prepared, I'm ready to receive that motion.
Make a motion for approval.
And I second discussion. And I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. We have an expired license, item 9 on the agenda, PAC 2334. Did obtain finally all the documents that were ready. Do we, as to PAC 2334, can you give us a little history as to what happened there that it took us to the brink here?
Yeah, so this is their first renewal. They had a little bit of confusion about the continuing education. So they took that ultimately late, but we're still working on getting that submitted to us. They were kind of going back and forth, and if they wanted to renew the license, they ultimately decided they did want to, and then took their training still within their time frame, but just getting it submitted to us and in the right format took them a little bit of time.
So you do have everything you need now to
Mhm.
show compliance, so,
Yep.
And we don't have a disciplinary history by virtue of the fact that this is a first renewal. There's certainly, these delays certainly merits, I think, at least, maybe a letter, but Scott, what's your thoughts?
I would agree with you, Rick. I'm ready for a motion for approval with a letter.
All right, motion has been made to issue renewal with a letter of education. I second that. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye, so that proves that license will be reissued. We have PAC 2331 as of a little less than a week ago. We have not received anything. Is that still the case?
That is still the case.
All right, and again, licensing, lapsing happens as a matter of law, does not require board action, so no need to take a motion on that file. Item 10 then, surrendered licenses, of which we have none. Item 11 is something that was alluded to just a few minutes ago, license status change, which we see happen most typically from individual to corporate. That's what is proposed here. Staff indicates there are no issues or problems, concerns. Is there a motion to approve status change?
Rick, this is Scott. I'd make that motion.
And I second. Discussion. Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Item 12, incomplete new applications. PAC Strategic, seeking a license as a PAC, Strategic Security Consulting. Staff reports last contact was on February 2nd, 2024. And it's gone silent since that time. Any updates?
We have not heard anything else from them. The last email that was sent a few weeks ago, an attempt to have contact again, came back undeliverable.
We were trying to figure out at an administrative level for these long lingering cases where people submitted some initial documents and then kind of went away. What we can do so these things don't keep coming up on the agenda over and over and over again. And I know for a couple in the past, what we did was we moved to indefinitely table and then remove from the agenda unless and until the applicant resubmits or starts with a new submission. We've had discussion with council about different options. It seems to me, in order to not keep cluttering up our minutes here, that may be an option. To simply table, a motion to table, remove from the agenda unless and until such time that the applicant breathes life back into their quest for a license. Scott, what are your thoughts?
I think that would be great, and I'd make that motion.
Greg, is that going to help to some level at the staff level?
That will help, sir. That will help.
Then a motion has been made to table as indicated, which I second. Motions to table are not debatable, so I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that will be tabled, and starting next meeting, don't worry about it unless the person starts again.
We'll save some ink, sir.
All right, we now move on to new applicants ready for review. The first of those seeking a corporate private detective license under the business name John, Jon, Abear, Abear, Enterprises, LLC, with the qualified representative, Minnesota manager, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer being Jonathan A. Bear. Do we have, staff indicates everything has been order, the initial issues had been, or omissions, I guess, have been received. Do we have representative of John A. Bear Enterprises LLC present?
Yes, we do have him online.
All right, if we can unmute. Are you there?
His name is there, but he is appearing to still be muted on his end.
Sounds like you're, or doesn't sound like, you're muted on your end. If you could unmute, please.
He was there earlier, so.
Oh. He gave a thumbs up, so I'm wondering if maybe his microphone is not working.
Might be your mic.
Sounds like he can hear us, but.
Yeah, his microphone's not working, so you just proceed, I guess.
All right. Well, the issues I tend to look at, history, experience, clearly, I don't have any questions. The applicant is a police officer and a police sergeant for the city of Deerwood for 11 years approximately. He clearly has the required training, credentials, background, so anything that we need to be made aware of at the staff level?
Nope, everything is submitted.
Scott, any questions, thoughts, comments on your end?
Nothing. I appreciate him trying to be here present with us. The one thing that I'd make mention that it seems like we deal with routinely is making sure that people that have had a police officer license continue with their ongoing education, keep their license up.
Yes, I agree. So then I'm looking for a motion.
I would make that motion for approval.
All right, motion was made to approve. I second. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. And so hopefully you heard us do that, Jonathan, and you will be getting your paperwork credentials soon, and welcome to the industry. All right, our next new applicant, which is ready for review, seeking an individual protective agent license under the business name of Blackhawk Protection Agent. I think we have someone here for that. Is that you?
No.
No,
I can see it on
he's
the screen.
online.
I knew we had a presence. I thought it was live. So it's on screen?
Yes.
Typing. He's typing. Okay, if we have two in a row that can't talk to us, then I think the technology might be on our end.
They can hear us, so.
It's not on our end. He's online, you can proceed.
Are you able to hear us?
You can hear us. You just can't speak at the moment.
So you can hear us but not speak. All right, we have an applicant, again, seeking, just for the record, spelling on the name is Abdullahi, Osman, Osman, DBA Blackhawk Protection Agency, seeking individual protective agent license. We have narrated scope of business. There were some things that needed to be corrected upon submission. So I understand it, all those have been addressed and everything from the staff level is ready to go. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And staff indicates the person has, or at least the documents we have indicates 10 years experience as a security officer. So those requirements certainly seem to have been met. Anything else that you want to make Scott or I aware of?
Nothing on our end.
I really have no other questions. Scott, what about on your end?
I have no questions at all and ready for a motion for approval.
All right, motion has been made to approve issuance of an individual protective agent license as submitted. I second. Any discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that motion stands approved. The license will be issued as requested. We have an application now for an individual private detective agent license. Someone who is going to be, as an individual, the entity or applicant is Michael Plankers, Plankers. Do we have a representative of that applicant?
He is here
Yes.
physically, sir.
Hiding back there. Come on up, please. You can hit the green button too, or hit the button. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Yes, yes. Appreciate that you physically came to visit with us today. I was impressed that application was submitted on the 20th of November, and you did such a great job. Staff says, yeah, we had it done in 2 days. So that's a testament both to your skill set and that of our staff.
Thank you.
So I like that a lot. Clearly, I don't have it. I really have no credentials. I'm well aware of your background, training, experience, and competency in terms of what you wish to do. Scott, do you have any questions of Michael?
I have no questions. Thank you for your service, and I'm ready to make a motion for approval.
Motion has been made to approve, to which I second. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So there you go. That motion carries. You will be getting your credentialing paperwork to everything, and you're good to go.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good way to start the new year.
Yes, it is.
Okay, next we have an applicant seeking a corporate protective agent license under the business name, the entity name of Elite Security Solutions LLC. Proposed qualified representative, Minnesota manager of John Pumprey, for the record. Do we have, with a Moorhead address, do we have a representative present from the applicant?
Yes, he is online.
All right. And who do we have present online?
Hey there, this is John Pumphrey. I'm the owner and CEO.
Oh, and I'm glad to hear a voice. We were having a bad string there for a minute, so welcome.
I was getting nervous myself.
Yeah, me too. I understand you are currently licensed in North Dakota in good standing, so welcome to this side of the Red River. We have no issues from a staff level. You clearly, given your current practice, you've met the training education requirements. I have very few questions. You are providing armed security. Is the scope of your business in Minnesota as well?
That's the goal, yeah, eventually once we get armed status.
And
to start with,
we see
it'll
that,
just be
we always,
myself.
all right. We always want to remind the licensees and applicants of the additional training that Minnesota requires for armed training, which please familiarize yourself with those rules and regulations and statutes as well. I really have very few questions. I have none, in fact. Scott, what about you?
Rick, I don't have any other questions. Welcome to Minnesota. And really, I'm ready to make a motion for approval.
Motion has been made to approve, which I second. Any other discussion? And I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that is approved, and you now are licensed in Minnesota as well as North Dakota. So congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, Now, our next applicant seeking a corporate protective agent license, the name of the entity would be Pro Max, M-A-X, Security Services LLC, with a qualified representative Minnesota manager present. I believe, now I got, if you could. And if you could also hit the button so the light turns green. All right, welcome. If you could identify yourself, please, for the record.
My name is Assad Ahmed.
All right. And you submitted your materials. You currently have an active post license working for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, so thank you for that and welcome.
Thank you.
You not only have the public sector experience as indicated, but substantial private sector security experience. So you are one of those that understands the difference between the public and private sector, so that's always positive from my perspective. I really have no questions for the applicant, but Scott, have you got some issues or questions?
I have no questions. Ready for a
Your plan is to continue to work for Hennepin County as you launch this business?
Yes, that's correct.
And
yes,
we always, wearing my attorney for sheriff's hat, so I always want to make sure people have complied with all their rules and regulations of their personnel requirements for their current employers. So you're aware of those things?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Anything from a staff standpoint?
I got a question, Rick, just to clarify that part. So your supervisor is aware that you are getting this license and he is giving his authorization?
That's correct. My sergeant and captain and majors are aware. They're all aware.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
What unit are you working now?
I'm currently assigned to the Adult Detention Center.
Oh, okay.
But I work at the hospital and different things, transport. Yeah, so I move around a lot.
That was more my idle curiosity since we're doing some work concerning your Adult Detention Center.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. We also always have a public tour, so people are always welcome to come check it out.
You're also always hiring, too.
That's who. Oh, yes, we are. Yes.
I don't have anything else. Scott, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make it again.
All right. And I second. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So that motion carries unanimously. You're good to go. We'll get you your paperwork and good luck with it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Next applicant seeks a corporate private detective license under backgroundchecks.com LLC with a qualified representative of Pamela Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E, Baker, B-A-K-E-R. Do we have a representative from backgroundchecks.com LLC present?
We do not.
Everything appears to be in order?
Yes.
And
they are currently licensed here under the same corporate officers do have they are representatives for another license holder in Minnesota.
Is that one the Higher Right LLC?
Yes.
I thought that was a licensee, so that was my one area of making sure that the experience transferred over in terms of the 6,000 hours, but same line of work, same business, so that answered my question that I had on that. I would have asked them if they were here, but you solved it for me, Abby, so thank you. Scott, anything on your end?
No questions. I'd make a motion for approval.
And I second. Discussion, and I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. Next, we have, under this agenda item, General Information Solutions LLC seeking a corporate private detective license. Again, same qualified representative, same Minnesota manager. Sounds like essentially the same, virtually identical situation, just wanting an additional license. Is that correct?
Yes, they were wanting to split up their two different lines of work for the businesses.
All right. Scott, is there a motion?
I would make that motion for approval, Rick.
And I second discussion. I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. All right. That brings us to item 14 on our agenda, tabled applicants. Discussion for this item is even older, been around since August of 2023. I would suggest that well, first of all, to try and get this off coming from our agenda, I would move to remove this from the table for purpose of discussion. Is there a second?
Scott, I would vote.
All right, then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye, so we removed it for the table. Now, having removed it from the table, I would move to, if we, as we just did a few minutes ago, I would move that we indefinitely retable and also remove from our monthly packet unless and until such time as the applicant brings life back and resubmits the materials. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
Rick, it's Scott. I'd second that.
All right. Then I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So going forward, this will also then come off the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, we have item 15 on the agenda, preliminary applications, of which we have none. Item 16, issues and discussions. Waiver of the $25 application request fee and having applicant packets available for download on the website. I should start by saying I, till recently, wasn't aware that we ever charged a $25 fee. So, Greg, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so there are questions regarding this as the application, if this has to do with data practices, and this is public data, number one. Number two, the $25 fee is nonsense. I mean, it costs more in state payroll to process the $25 fee than it's actually worth. It's just nothing but a hassle for the people applying. It would make our job a lot smoother, and I see no reason why this cannot just be downloaded right off of the internet.
I can't figure out any legal authority to charge a $25 fee, and I don't know where it came from. I'm not aware of my memory of this board, either the full board or certainly no subcommittee ever authorizing the imposition of the fee either. Were we able to figure out where this came from?
This was prior to 2012, I can tell you. I can tell you it's prior to 2012.
So this has been going on for a long time?
Yes, sir.
Well, there may have been a time where that was legally permissible, but Minnesota statutes 13.03, subdivision 3, I think clause D or E, I forget which one, was amended at some point in terms of what government agencies can charge for documents, and this is clearly outside the scope of that. So I don't know if it requires committee action, but if it does, I would vote to kill the $25 application fee going forward, and immediately stop charging it, and then whatever can be done to allow the documents to be uploaded electronically, that's a staffing issue. But the biggest issue today is killing of the $25 fee. So Scott, that's my thought. Where are you at?
I'm 1,000% behind this. The $25 application fee is ridiculous, and having it up on our website is welcome to 2025.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so motion has been made and seconded to kill that fee. I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hodgson votes aye. So,
Got one more thing.
all right, other items under discussion.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Matthias Frampton. He is our new administrative assistant. He has been with us a few weeks. He is being totally immersed in all things training, trying to understand the thousand different tasks that he's going to be doing, but he will be with us going forward.
Excellent. Welcome aboard.
Thanks, happy to be here.
I don't believe we have a need for a closed session as a licensing committee, or excuse me, yeah, as a credentialing licensing committee, unless our attorney tells us differently. Steve?
No, but Rick, I did want to clarify one thing for the record.
Please do.
Your motion killed the application request fee, not the application fee. Because under 326, 3386, there is an application fee and a license fee. So those two things still exist. But
Yes,
not an
it is.
application request fee. Okay.
Correct. It is only for the initial paperwork. Thank you for that clarification. I think it's another example. We all knew what we meant, but being an old ham-handed guy, I may have misstated it, so I appreciate that you cleaned that up. That gives us to the end of our agenda. Our next scheduled meeting of the licensing committee is January 28th, 2025 at 10 a.m. It appears we will be still at this location at that point.
It appears so, Board Chair.
Then I will, looking for a motion to adjourn. Scott?
Rick, I'd make that motion. Happy New Year to
And
all.
I second. I'll call the roll. Scott?
Aye.
And Hosden votes aye. According to the clock on the wall, we now stand adjourned at approximately 11:15 a.m. on December 31st. Thank you.